Okay, there we go. So we're starting our recording, and client support training, healthy mind, living above the line is our topic for tonight. I am Sabrina May, and I'm regional director. I've been coaching for almost 3 years, and today we're going to be really talking about living above the line. And we talk a lot about healthy body and healthy finances and living in structure. And sometimes we forget that we also need growth in our mind. So we're going to be covering about the above the line thinking and how it applies in our lives and supporting clients, as well as just really thinking about the importance of building authentic relationships with clients and in our lives. So I'm going to pass it over to Tara. Find Tara.
Hello.
Hi. There you are.
Yeah, hi. So my name is Tara Clark, and I'm an executive director. Tonight I'm going to talk about healthy mind. I would say this has probably been my biggest struggle through my journey since becoming a health coach. I became a health coach back in February, but I just didn't know that I actually had the power to change my thoughts. So this is a great topic. So you want to ask yourself, would you like to have more quality and impactful interactions? And do you want to improve your relationship skills? So emotions can get us, can get in the way and get us into a space that doesn't benefit us. It keeps us stuck. And why is that important? Because you're leading your own self, so you're more equipped to lead others. So we're going to talk about conscious leadership. How many times have you reacted negatively? So, that person cut you off in traffic. Your kids aren't listening to you, which happens to me a lot. Your clients, won't get back to you, or you're texting them, you're calling them, they just won't get back to you or return your text. So these thoughts take away our power and keep us from growing and moving forward. Our commitment, so rather than permitting my unconscious habits to take all my power, hold me back and keep me where I am, you tell yourself, I'm making the decision to adopt these new habits regardless of how difficult this may be for a period of time until they're habits of transformational leadership. So you see this picture here, this guy is holding a very large rock, and he's treading water, and he's, underneath, he's trying to keep his head above the water, but he's really struggling. And he says, why can't I do it? He sees his goals at the top of that mountain. He sees where he wants to be, but he has these concepts, these limiting beliefs, and these problems keeping him below the water. So how many of you have had these thoughts as a coach? So what are they going to think of me? I'm too shy. I'll never make it to where that coach is. I'm not good enough. I'm not a leader. And I don't have enough time. So how do we get to where we want to be and get our heads above the water? We take responsibility and play above the line. So I want to kind of talk about negative thoughts and what living below the line is like when you have these negative thoughts come into your mind. So living below the line, you're closed. You're not being open to what's next. You're defensive. In your tone, it's their fault that this. Your body language. You're committed to being right. You think that you're always right. And so how do you switch that? How do you go above the line? So you want to be more open. You stop yourself. What is going on here? You ask yourself, you're curious, and you ask yourself, I wonder why this happened. And you challenge that negative thought, and you say, is this even true? And then you're committed to learning. So what can I learn from this? You've made your mistake, and you're not where you want to be. So how do you learn from that? So that's living above the line. You take responsibility and you play above the line. And back to you, Sabrina.
Thank you, Tara. So I think all of what Tara was talking about, we've probably experienced. Put a 1 in the chat if you have experienced those things and those thoughts. I know personally for myself, this has extremely helped my marriage. And I basically have saved my marriage using this technique. Some people may know kind of where I was at last year around this time, and was not in a good place. And I did not react very positively, very defensive. But now I'm able to be open and question what is really going on to make that good decision. So Don is now going to hop on, and he is going to talk about how we, can transition from being a victim to a victor. So Don, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, I mean, basically what we're talking about is we're talking about taking responsibility and playing above the line. So what we're trying to do is change the way we look at things, but the things we look at are never going to change until we change the way we look at things. So we need to recognize when we're living above the line and when we're playing below the line. Because if we're below the line, if we're blaming, really what we're trying to do is get rid of the enemy within. Because if we can get rid of the enemy within, then the enemy on the outside can never do us any harm. So it's all about that mind shift and changing the way we look at things. Because for most of our lives, we've been caught in this drama triangle, like it shows below: the victim, the villain, the hero. So for the victim, when we're playing the victim, we're always blaming others. It's always someone else's fault. If that person wouldn't have cut me off, if my boss would just have listened to me, if my kids would just behave better, if my husband would just understand, or my wife would just understand. We play this victim, and we play that blame game over and over and over. And then we play the villain. It's like, we want to deny, like, if I was just as pretty as her, I'd be successful. If I was just as wealthy as them, we'd be happy. And, we just find fault in everything. We see failure. And the problem is, we've all had struggles in our life. And so we don't want to give into those and live in our past. So we want to get past that. And a lot of times when we look back, we see the scars from when we fell. We see the problems that we've had. But what you need to start looking at is the stories those will tell, and overcoming those obstacles, and how you're going to be able to impact lives as a result of that. So we want to get away from living below the line, and we want to recognize that always. And so we need to be committed to living above the line always. Because once you become truly committed to something and you do it day after day after day, you're going to have an unwavering confidence in your ability to do that. So just stay committed to living above the line all the time. And so then when we switch from living below the line, we switch to living above the line. And what that looks like is taking ownership, taking accountability, taking responsibility. Because just like we all know about with E plus R equals O, events are going to happen. And it's going to be our responsibility to take ownership of those events so that we can get the outcome that we want. So all kinds of things are going to happen to us throughout our lives. The bottom line is, it's up to us how we react to those. So your father may be an alcoholic. Your spouse may be an alcoholic. That's not your fault. But it's your responsibility to overcome that. And it's up to you to do that. And so you need to get rid of that enemy within. Most of us are our own worst enemies. We tell ourselves stuff all the time. We need to get away, because it's about that law of attraction. We're going to attract what we put out there. If we're constantly playing the victim, we're constantly going to attract victims. And so we want to play above the line, because we want to start putting that out into the universe and start attracting that. Have you everybody say, oh, with my luck, it'll never work out? Why would you say that? Why don't you start saying, well, with my luck, it's probably going to go better than I ever thought? And you know what? If you talk to some of the people that hang around me sometimes, a lot of times I'll say it, well, with my luck, this is probably going to work out better than I thought. And it happens a lot. Start getting the universe to work in a partnership with you. What if the universe started working with you instead against you? Because it can happen, but it's up to you. You have to make the change. Remember, the things in your life are not going to change. So you need to change the way you look at it. Thanks. Back to you, Sabrina.
Thank you, Dawn. We always love when Dawn comes on. Wow. Okay. I know a lot of information in a short amount of time, but have you guys ever heard when you're coaching your clients, I'm too old, it's not going to work for me? Put a 2 in the chat if you've heard that. How about nothing's ever worked? So, how do we turn those thoughts around, even in our clients? But, we also have our own thoughts too. Like, I'm not going to get on calls when I'm home with my 5-year-old because he makes noise. Guess what? A lot of us have had noise. I'm going to introduce Charmaine now, another amazing coach, and she's going to talk about some questions that you can use to go above the line. So let me find Charmaine. Is she on here?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Take it away.
Hi. So hello, everyone. I'm Charmaine. I started coaching in February, and I'm so happy to have Sabrina as my mentor. And so I started coaching in I'm a manager level now. So some of the questions that we may ask ourselves, what can I learn from this since life is all about learning and growing? And that's one of the takeaways that I have from learning above the line and taking on that responsibility is looking at the situation that I'm in or that event and thinking about the learning experience that I'm gaining from it. And thinking about the perception that I may be putting out to others. So you think about, I wonder what is here for me about myself. What am I learning about myself during this experience? Some things we want to be mindful of is that we don't want to place blame on others, but we want to approach the situation, that event, with curiosity and wonder. And it's not always about having the answers. It's not about being right, but really understanding the process that you're going through. And that sentence right at the bottom, the obstacle is the way. A lot of times it's the learning experience that we have to go through to help push us up to that next level, to help us to grow in ways that we didn't think that was possible. So with that, awareness, that's one of the key things that we need to have. And when I think of awareness, I also think about the habits of health with mindfulness and what that means to me. Sometimes it's not about staying 100% above the line, but understanding what that is. I had a situation that I faced just this past weekend, and where I got a response from a family member that I wasn't okay with, and I had emotions like anger. I was upset, and it really disrupted my day, and really made me question about what I was doing. And we sometimes hear and from others about don't listen to naysayers, and what does that look like to you? And so I had to kind of think back and like, okay, well, this is what I want to do, this is the dreams that I have. And it was difficult for me, and so I had a conversation with my coach, and she asked me that question, and Sabrina's like, you're saying these comments, but is that really living above the line? And this is our leadership standard, and how can I approach this situation differently? And so at the end, I revisited the conversation with that family member, and it boiled down to that I didn't fully understand the position that individual was coming from, because I was living within my own reality and not accepting what was coming to me and what that person's reality was, and kind of meeting in the middle. So think about how fast can we shift to live above the line. And a lot of times it just may be a communication issue, and being able to talk about that more fully. So awareness questions that we can use to help us switch above that line is asking, well, is it true? Is it really emotions that I'm feeling? Because for me, during that experience, it was really a buildup of emotions, and I needed to push through those. And so, did I absolutely know that it was true? For me, no, it wasn't absolutely true. But what I had in my mind kind of colored the way that I thought the conversation went. And so, how did I show up to that individual? Or how did I react to that individual when I believed what they thought? I was negative, and that's not how I want to come through to the individual. So I need to change the way that I react and how I present myself in those situations. And who would I be without that thought? So if I didn't have my reach out, if I didn't understand how it is to go through these different steps of transformational leadership, I probably would have been stuck. I wouldn't have thought about this as a learning and growth opportunity. And if we don't have the growth and we don't learn from the experiences, then how do we move forward and continue to grow in our life? And for me, it was just an experience for me that reflecting back, it's something that I need to write about. That's one thing that as we reflect upon these experiences, journaling and writing those thoughts down gives us an opportunity to go back and not forget what we've learned through this process. And as we coach others in the future, we can reflect and share those experiences with them as well.
Wow. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Charmaine.
Thank you.
I remember that conversation, and I remember the struggle that you were having. So I'm so glad that you were able to overcome that. So put a 3 in the chat if you've ever reached out to a client, just a quick check-in, see how they're doing, and they don't get back to you. So yeah, happens all the time. And what are the thoughts that go through your head? Oh my gosh, they're not doing the program. Oh my gosh, they're going to cancel. Oh, they hate everything. What? Yep, I've experienced it. So these are great these questions right here, the awareness questions are awesome to ask yourselves in those moments. Is that really true? Even when you have conversations with your clients and they're like, I'm doing horribly when they lost 10 pounds in a week. Is it really true? Do you absolutely know it's true? Is that thought serving you and who you want to be and your goal? Those are really amazing questions to ask because it'll help really get you past those negative thoughts. So I'm going to bring on Joe Otto. Anybody that's seen that newsletter has seen Joe out there. He is the story that's on there. Are you there, Joe?
I certainly am. I thought that was quite funny.
Take it away.
That's the amazement of our program. So anyways, my name is Joe Otto. I'm an integrated regional director with Optavia, and I've been coaching now for about just over 14 months. And, many times in the program and, with what we do, we hear the phrase stop, challenge, and choose. And, we get that early on. And then in addition to that, it's also in the habits of health. And it's in the part 2, chapter 19. And it's about page 241 of the book I have. And I know that's probably going to change when the new format comes out here later on in the fall. But for now, that's what we're using. But stop, challenge, and choose is very important. I didn't set my timer. My bad. So, sorry, I'm going to go over. Just kidding. So stop, challenge, and choose. What does that actually mean? So we want to, whenever we have any kind of a thought, whatever that thought is, one of the things that I've heard my mentors say quite a bit is this thought, helping me? Is this thought serving me? That's the word I'm looking for. And so you have to stop and think about that. Is that thought really serving me? And if it's not, then you have to challenge yourself to think a different way. You have to challenge yourself to, how can I better respond to this situation as opposed to reacting to the situation, which ends up, if we react to things, we get defensive. We may, that's when we're going to get into the blame game and all those other things that is going to give us a negative outcome. And that's not what we want to do. Of course, then we want to choose a different outcome. And how we choose that is by how we respond to whatever the thought or the action was that we stopped. So that's a little bit about that. All right, next screen. Okay, so in taking this full responsibility, I don't want to really reiterate everything that everyone else has been saying. We want to live above the line in all of our thoughts and all of our behaviors. And that's how we're going to have the best communication that we have with our clients. Just everybody in general, no one's used to people listening to them, and they're not used to people taking them seriously. You know how you ever been in a conversation with somebody, and as you were talking, I've done this so many times I can't even think straight about it. How many times have I been in a conversation and I'm having it with somebody, and all I'm thinking about is what I'm going to say next? I lose everything they're saying. It sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, 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 talking to me. And as they've said something, I personally am trying to think of something to say next. And that's not what we do. That's not living above the line. Above the line is paying attention and living intentionally with that person and listening to what they're saying, and then asking questions to them back to what they're saying. And they're thinking, oh my gosh, this person's really listening to me. That's what we can do with our clients. And that's how we can empower them to be better. And, a client is more than just someone who buys a whole bunch of food. A client is someone that we're wanting to enrich in their lives, that they make better decisions, that they move forward in their life, and that they're not trapped in the person that they were before. And then, so that's pretty much the responsibility of how we play above the line, as opposed to blaming, denial, living below the line, and always thinking of things in a negative outcome. And of course, a lot of us wear these bracelets on our arms that we've gotten at convention in different places, and they say all of them have the same phrase on them: E plus R equals O. Event plus your response equals your outcome. And that's all that is. Everything that we have in life is some kind of an event. It doesn't matter if it's a good event or a bad event. There's something that happens. Every time something happens, how we respond to that is going to equal whatever outcome that we have. I was at a celebration of life for a gentleman who passed away in June of this year. And they had a celebration for him yesterday. And this man, he was 78 years old. He had a good full life, but he got cancer, died real fast. And they had this celebration for him. And he was in real estate. He was a team builder. He was a motivator. He just did all these amazing things. And during this, it's almost like a wake, but during this celebration, different people got up and they spoke about him, about some situation in life that they had with him. And as they were all speaking, every one of them had a big smile on their face and said one of the phrases he always used, no matter if it was a business deal that they were competitors with him or if they were in business with him. And one thing they always said was, first thing he said out of his mouth was, how can I help you? It wasn't, how can you help me? He wasn't trying to think of some way to make it a scheming deal or something. He always entered every conversation with, how can I help you? And it was an amazing testimony of all these people. And there was over 75 people in the room. But anyways, I'll probably talk too long, but that was a neat way to share that. So.
Wow, Joe, you did great. You were at like 5.5 minutes. You were awesome. So isn't that crazy? Like E plus R equals O, stop, challenge, choose, living above the line. I mean, it's all interconnected. Living intentionally with that person. Wow. I love that, Joe. That was awesome. Empowering them to be better, enriching in lives, not trapped in the person they were before. Those are all reasons why we are here and why we do what we do. So thank you all for such amazing knowledge that you've shared today. I'm just sharing this information. This is something that was on our recent Habits of Health webinar that Lisa Castro did on the same topic. And she shared these 2 books that she thought was really helpful for her. So the Change Your Questions, Change Your Life, it really taught you between judger versus learner, and constructive, not blaming, those types of questions, and learning those types of tools that you can use in your business and in your life. The fixed mindset versus learning mindset, if you want to learn about that, the mindset book, she said, was very helpful and had a lot to do with how we move forward. So in our mindfulness, and I know a lot of us struggle with that sometimes. So super helpful information. So our session is over for today, but we can hang out and see if anyone has any questions. And then let's see, take everybody off here. And does anyone have any questions? You can just take yourself off of mute if you do. Anyone?
Someone named Rebecca had her hand up in the chat, and I don't know if she was looking to get a question answered or not.
Oh, that would be my mom.
Oh.
I did see it pop up.
Was she just waving, or was it like a hand?
She probably meant to respond. Hi, Mom. I see her. I'm going to lower her hand. Did you want to ask something, Rebecca? Okay. She's shaking her
We
head.
just wanted to say how proud she was of her girl.
Yeah. Well, I lowered her hand once, and she popped it. So I thought well, she must have something important. So I wrote her and was like, "Hey, can I help?"
Hey, everybody. That's my mom.
Well, now I feel bad.
No, now I'm getting like really red probably. So anybody else? I'm not done, honey. I'm not done. See? Nick, I see you got one hanging out behind you. Anybody else? Come off mute if you have a question. Nope. All righty. Well, thank you all so much. And I hope that you enjoyed the content. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your coach or anyone that was talking on the call. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Bye.